With 2 rounds left, our top 4 drivers in the points have only 33 markers between them. A nerve-wrackingly close season leaves the major players with extremely little wiggle room for mistakes. Similarly, our penultimate venue will punish anyone who oversteps the smallest of margins. It's time for a street race as we get ready to watch round 12 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Long Beach was a long-requested circuit on iRacing, so let's head to our track guide to find out more about it. Welcome to Long Beach. Nestled into the south side of Los Angeles and running alongside the Pacific Ocean, this street circuit has made the port area world famous. Both Formula One and IndyCar have called this 2-mile, 11-turn circuit home. Winning here has become a prestige worth boasting about among open-wheel pilots. Indeed, the winners list includes the likes of Lauda, Andretti, Unser, Montoya, Power, and many other legendary names in racing. Much like its European sister over in Monaco, it's short, tight, and punishing. But unlike Monte Carlo, this circuit emerged from a rundown piece of California coast to grow into the glamorous location it is today. Down into Turn 1 at the end of Shoreline Drive is where the majority of overtakes tend to be made. But sneaky passes can also pop up in places like 6 on the way into Pine Avenue, or Turn 9 at the end of Seaside Way. There's also 2 distinctive landmarks notorious for causing track blockages. The fountain section, with all its beauty, is a single-file affair save for the first lap. And the hairpin has been a staple here, even though it's changed locations a few times. In fact, that last hairpin not only includes the dangers of getting tangled with another car, but the important nature of getting the best exit you can to keep your rival from having a chance to pass you into the first corner. It feels appropriate that California's signature street track is a hop, skip, and a jump away from the beach. But while others might be trying to attack the surf, our drivers today will be attacking the corners instead. Really a classic track. It's been a part of the scene in North American racing for a long time. In fact, Joey, it's the longest running North American street race.
You learn something new every day. 11 turns, 1.97 miles in length. And when I think of Long Beach over here, I think of those huge concrete walls and a couple giant funnel areas, specifically the fountain section down there. That's kind of turns 2, 3, 4. You got to be really careful on those opening couple laps when everything is stacked up. Also, the Tecate turn down there, I believe it's about turn 6 or so. You have to be careful. It's a potential passing zone, and there's also a few bumps that are going into that. And then after Seaside Way, going into probably another good passing opportunity down there, the Firestone turn. I believe that's about turn 7. And then, of course, the hairpin, the very, very final turn, turn number 11. One of the most iconic corners here in Long Beach, and it's not a place that you can go too wide very often. I do think that these open-wheel cars, with cooperation, you can get it done because they are on the smaller side, but more often than not, it can end in tears.
We saw it work in IMSA Vintage, but it's not often that it works. It does take some cooperation and a very tight turning radius, if we're honest, but let's take a look at the championship, because that could also turn on a dime the way it has been going. Including today, there's 2 rounds left, and look at the points difference. You almost never see this many drivers that are in the hunt. Now, I'm not entirely clear on exactly how many mathematically have a chance, because we have the drop weeks, and that kind of muddies the waters a little bit. But what you can know is that if some of these drivers have a bad weekend this week, that will make it extremely difficult. And one of those is Valenteus, who is riding on 0 drop points to help him out. So while it says he's 33 points away, he cannot afford to have a bad race. The good news for him, he's won almost every single race he's entered in this season. But that is the F1 standings. Joey, what about the F2 standings?
It's a pretty tight battle between first and second. Jan Steffen, 309 points leading that charge. Jonathan Jordan only 14 points behind, so definitely nipping at the heels. And then a little bit of a gap back here to third place. Tobias Harnvey Then it starts to close back up between David Meuse and Tomas Tuba there for what is 4th place inside the top 5. Another little bit of a gap, including these rest 5 drivers: Roberto Pancrazzi, Andres Bruno, Mats Linden, Alan Graham, Thomas Willershausen, all inside that top 10.
And of course, there is the Nations Cup before they had the Constructors' Championship in F1. This is how they used to do it, actually. And Italy is leading right now. Singapore only behind by about 22 points. Of course, Nicola Kaki, the one carrying the banner for Italy. I have to check to see if Italy has actually ever won this championship here on iRacing, here in this sort of faux league, if you will. The United States trying to see if they can get up in the hunt. 2 rounds, still definitely feasible. Same thing with the Netherlands, maybe the UK. By the time you get down there to 5th and 6th, it's looking a little less likely that they'll wind up with the title this season. So Italy, Singapore, US, really your major players to look out for out on the track. And what's going to be happening on the track today, Joey?
Yeah, we are out here for round 12 of 13, 26 laps. Yeah, 26 laps is what these 49s are going to be doing. An open setup, so you get to tweak and tune on that car. Make sure it's driving exactly how you need it for each specific circuit every week. No spare cars, so if you pick up any damage, you're going to have to live with it, or you drive down pit road, come to a stop, and have your pit crew attempt to fix that damage. A drive-through penalty at 17 incident points, disqualification at 25 incident points. And Joe, maybe we'll have to put a running tally, because I don't think it's possible to create 17 incident points here in these cars without ending in the pits.
Yeah, it would be extremely difficult. You could maybe brush the wall kind of hard a few times, but you'd almost have to intentionally be trying to do that to still be able to run around, because you're likely to end it with one of those hits. As we get some times on the board, it looks like Togo Hisada has the provisional pole. He's going to be much more of a long shot to try and take this championship. In fact, he might be mathematically eliminated just because of the drop points. And Jorge Nieva is still looking for his first title. He's won races this season. In fact, I think he has a single win to his name so far this season. He's sitting on that front row. But Mick Claridge is back. He's been stealing points, so that's going to be difficult. Valenteus is here. And right now, well, he just took the top spot, actually. There you go.
And what I think is most impressive about Valenteus' lap is that was his first lap that he was able to go and snag away pole position. Everybody else has already completed both of their qualifying laps. This is the second lap from the number 1 car. He has a chance to go even faster.
Yeah, so far Valenteus with 7 wins, but because he hasn't shown up for so many races, that's why he's on the back foot. But like I said, all but one race that he's entered has been victory. So he's sitting in a very good spot because of that. Other than that, Seb Tixey is the only other driver to win multiple races. Took 2 wins so far. Nieva and Hisada each on 1. Seeing in the chat that Tixey is saying he messed up his qualifying. I'm trying to figure out where he is right now, actually.
I mean, he's sitting in 26th position with both laps completed. So he has no option whatsoever other than to pretty much start near the back of the field. Valenteus is going to cross the start-finish line here momentarily. 118.292. So he, in fact, improves his pole position setting time. Goes even faster.
If you're going to have to start from the back at a track, you really don't want it to be here at Long Beach. Yuma Yao here sitting without a time on the board is coming around with what looks like a black flag, actually. So I don't think his laps will count, unfortunately. Despite his very snazzy looking paint scheme, he's probably going to also have to start at the back.
That's coming through that last hairpin section down here as we check in on the number 15 car of Juan Rodriguez. Unfortunately, I just don't see the time being able to allow the number 15 car here to complete the lap. So I really do feel like looking at everybody in qualifying, we'll watch this car play it out, but I think our grid is going to be set.
Yeah, only other driver on the track that's running at the moment, so nobody else can take a time from here. You're right, this is just not enough, and he knows it. He's going to pull off, and we'll let that clock tick down to 0. So this is good news for Nieva, because one of his main rivals is Seb Tixier, who sits second in the championship. The bad news is that Valenteus, who's quickly on the rise, is catching up to him and is going to be starting ahead of them. So it'll be tough to beat. Hisada, starting on that front row, could try and challenge him if he can get ahead early in the race. But the question is, does he want to try and risk that? Because, well, it could so easily go wrong, Joey.
It can go wrong. I'm looking at the iRacing chat right now, and there's a few drivers kind of discussing that, including Seb Tixier saying, 100% I die in the first corner in first lap shenanigans.
Almost wonder if we're going to see him starting actually from pit lane just to avoid some of that. As looks like the grid is set, and Valenteus will start on the pole. Then it's going to be Hisada to his outside and Mick Claridge starting on the inside of the second row. Sometimes third can be a good starting spot here. Jorge Nieva will begin in P4, while Mikko Leno will be in P5. Kevin Verbruggen starts 6, and then Mike DeTurk will be P7. I wonder if Michael changed his name on iRacing. I'm going to guess that's a yes. Pauli Partanen starts in 8th. Laust Olsen returns with a start from 9th. And then John Olsen, no relation, will start from 10th.
In 11th, we've got Ryan Walker. Big shout out to that number 13. Good to see him out there. Roberto Pengrazi starting in 12th place there next to him. Marco Salgado in 13th. Cam Porter 14th. Mike Grissinger 15th. Jan Steffen in 16th. Tobias Harnvey 17th. Yanni Lehman 18th. Aitor Sintez Galindo back here in 19th. Expect him to move forward. And Matthew Maudsley in 20th.
And it is Robert Plumley in 21st. Alan Graham starting 22nd today. Shuhei Nakamura will be 23rd. David Muse starts in the 24th spot, followed by the quarter-century mark of Justin Flanagan. You've got Jonathan Jourdain in at 26. Seb Tixier, last one to set a time, but 27th, as Jason Clapper will be next to him in 28th. Then it's Juan Rodriguez, 29th, and top 30, rounded out by Henry King.
Then across the page, we have Yuma Yao in 31st. Kirk Clapper starting 32nd. Mohamed Omir in 33rd. And a few more as we got the revs on.
Yep, as drivers are ready to go. Green flag is out, and coming off the line, Audrius Valenteus does get a good start. And again, these cars have a long braking zone, so it's even more treacherous coming into the first corner. Look at them all flying in as they come up to the left-hander. Some of them starting to approach, looking at 3 wide. Are we going to get slowed up and get through clean? Watching them siphon through. I don't see any incidents, but what about the fountain section? Mostly single file, which is good to see.
It looks like we've got our first incident. That's Seb Tixier getting turned around after picking up nearly 15 positions in one turn. The rest of the field is streaming down towards turn number 6. It's still Valenteus leading, Hisada leading Nieva, the top 3.
Tixier looks like he was still going. The car's damaged. He pulls off to the side, and he is going to be one of our first retirements. So that is it for him. Championship might be out of the window after that one, but we'll do the math later. Valenteus continues to lead Togo Hisada further on down in the lap, down the back stretch and into Firestone Turn.
This is coming into the slowest section of the racetrack here. This is always the cool turn 10, and then turn 11, the hairpin. We should see single file for the most part, as long as people are cooperating out there, and looks like lap number 1 of 26 is now complete.
Well, we got through it with one major incident, and that's it. That's honestly a good sign. Usually you have a couple all throughout the lap. Down back into turn 1 once again. The yellow and black of Mick Claridge is hot on the heels of Jorge Nieva. Sends it in deep, though, down into the fountain section. Hard to pass into there, so I'm not sure what he was trying.
Sometimes you just got to put the other driver on a little bit of a notice, and even if it's a move that you're not going to make, consider it a fake, right? Or a feint, or whatever you want to call it, just to try to get their eyes off of the apex, their eyes off of the brake marker, and maybe have them slide a little bit wide, and then that'll provide you an opportunity further down the road.
So let's get you a list of drivers that seem to have been caught out by that first lap. Laust Olsen, Alan Graham, Nakamura, Omir, Hartonen, Tixier, and Rodriguez have all been in pit lane since that one. Not sure if there's others that were able to carry on. Let's see if we get a second look and try to pick them out. Tixier, and who was that on the inside, the 35?
Roberto Pengrazi, which, Roberto is very respectful. He races with us every single week. I don't want to put it on his shoulders, but I do feel like he was kind of in no man's land, trying to get out of the way, and then just kind of the incident happened.
Yeah, I have to admit, I don't think parking it in the fountain is really the way to get out of the way, unfortunately. But we're back up the lead once again. Claridge still seeing whether or not he can get by Jorge Nieva, but nothing happening yet. One thing this place is known for, Joey, is the difficulty in overtakes.
It can be very opportunistic on those moves, let's put it that way. Sometimes you have to definitely come from a long ways back, and that requires confidence on that brake pedal. The good thing about these cars is the brake zones are relatively long. However, if I remember correctly, the guy who's best on the brakes is actually sitting in pit lane, Seb Tixier.
And you also have to remember that the lap traffic can often be a factor here as well, because it is a pretty short lap. See those noses dip as they headed into Firestone turn. Once again, little supple suspension on these vehicles, so they will bounce around a lot on this somewhat bumpy circuit. Kevin Verbruggen here fighting with Michael de Turk.
Good little battle coming down the front straight. I actually see Nieva really in the slipstream of Togo Hisada. This is a potential opportunity going into turn number one. You see Togo full defensive in the middle of the road and now comes back to the racing line, but it actually started way back there, and now Togo smacks the wall. Nieva gets loose. McClarridge takes advantage. Somehow, it was only Nieva that ended up losing 2 positions through that.
Wild stuff. Miko also snuck by in there. Togo Hisada still in second spot. Mick Claridge knows that he's going to be a little bit wounded from that. He's probably going to be on the aggressor right now to try and sneak through. We watch him on board. Nieva, no try from Mick down into turn 6 this time.
I was going to say that it was Togo Hisada that was maybe a little bit wide in turn 10, the lap prior, that really affected his run coming out of the hairpin. So we're headed down towards that section of the racetrack right now, and you couple that with the potential wall damage from turn number 1 down there. I wonder if Togo is either struggling with the car, has a wounded car, and sure enough, just really slow once again through this turn 10 section. Maybe it just comes down to practice.
He got away without a black and orange flag, so he's good on that one. Speaking of which, for the first time, I got to call one of those in real life, and I was a bit confused when I saw it, actually. Don't typically see those in real races all that frequently, and Mick Claridge is going to send one up the inside of Togo Hisada. Does he hit the wall again? He nearly brushes it, but he is going to lose the position this time.
I think that was a great move from Mick Claridge. There is no way he was going to make that work. He was coming from way downtown on that. Togo Hisada left the door open because he's a respectful driver, and Mick Claridge said, you know what? This is the area that Togo had trouble in last lap. Let's go push the issue. He did it, and Togo slipped up again.
Gain of 2 positions so far. Excuse me, 1 position from Mick Claridge since the start of this race. Now he sets his sights on Andreas Valenteus, who's run up the road by about 4.3 seconds. So he's got a gap, but we'll have to watch and see. Now that Mick is in clear air, what's his pace going to look like?
I was just about to point that out. Valenteus is just on another planet right now. He is set off down the road. He's not even in screen. Look, he's on the front straightaway, way down there, pretty much crossing the start-finish line right now, while everybody else is pretty much playing who's next best.
Riding on board now with our championship leader. Behind Mikko Leno is going to be ruining that little hiccup, trying to avoid the incident of Togo Hisada. As he goes on the attack, Mikko defends down to the inside. Difficult to try and get it done the long way around, but he's going to do it. Jorge's got the bit between his teeth.
It's good to see him kind of get back onto that racing line, as Verbruggen is right behind Mikey de Turk here in the number 27. Looks good to have him back out here, and although the I rating doesn't necessarily match the number plate and how far forward he is, everybody knows Michael de Turk, and he's always going to be towards the front in the 49s, the 79s, the IMSA Vintage Series, whatever he hops in.
And as I often point out, he's also our stats guy here at GSRC. So he's a guy that's very good with numbers and likes these old cars, as you pointed out. Nico still trying to hold on to Nieva. Nieva now has Togo Hisada in front of him. And like we said, Hisada seems to be struggling a little bit. Back to Kevin Verbruggen now on Deturk, coming through these last couple corners. I have to imagine without the downforce, the aero wake to affect you, this exit out of the final turn can make such a difference trying to get smooth on that throttle.
Another point about that final turn, Joe, I saw a lot of the competitors in that iRacing chat pre-race saying, hey, did you guys remember to shorten first gear? That corner down there is so slow that you really need to shorten first gear in order to get the launch coming out of there. I wonder how many drivers are unaware of that and simply are losing lap time just not having the right gearing in the car.
That's a good point. Didn't even think about that. But I know Mick Claridge will often mess with that first gear to get himself that better launch off the start-finish line. So I wonder if he's one of those that has got a little bit of a better setup in that sense. Somebody they're coming up to is Andre Bruno. So that's a lapped car down to the inside there from Verbruggen, but no dice. Deturk holds on to P6. Coming now on the back stretch, it narrows up here. It is a tight exit on that one, but they give it plenty of width on the outside.
I can understand this light blue number 7 of Kevin Verbruggen, kind of the urgency of trying to get by Deturk right now. I do feel like he might be a little bit faster, but they have swapped around positions from where they qualified. So in terms of relative speed, yeah, they're pretty close, but the competitors are only, call it 2.5 seconds up the road. If they can get a move on, they might be able to close it in, as it looks like interstate traffic down Seaside Way.
It really is. Jan Steffen is at the front of it. That's Harnvey, Plumley, Clapper, Grissinger, all regulars of this series. You're going to have to get single file, guys, coming down into here. But back at the back, Grissinger says, no, I don't. I'm going to go to the inside, but he cannot get his foot down. Jason Clapper will outgun him off the corner.
Clapper picks up the position here, but it's still relatively close between those three directly in front of him. Jason is always known for starting at the back, not putting in a qualifying time, and then making all of those passes. And you made the point, it's pretty difficult to pass here at Long Beach. He's doing a pretty good job, up 11, but he is not the biggest mover so far. Got to look at Yuma Yao as we check a GSRC replay.
So here's Kurt Clapper. Oh, and a car messes up in front. No place to go. Just kind of innocently collected on that one.
If I was to guess, I think that was Jonathan Jordan getting into that outside wall. And I know everybody's going to say, oh, well, why didn't you hit the brakes or kind of avoid with a lane change maneuver? Kurt Clapper was already standing on the gas, committed to exit. It is difficult to all of a sudden change lanes or change directions when you're going that fast.
You're probably more focused on fighting the car off the corner and make sure it's nice and smooth. As Robert Plumley down to the inside with a damaged vehicle is going to take 15th place off of Tobias Harnvey. Next on his list is Jan Steffen up at the front of this group. This has been a really fun little collection of vehicles that we've got here, very tight off the corner behind them between Clapper and Grissinger. Once again, Michael Grissinger really likes that hairpin for attempted passes.
You just have to, I guess, present the car enough. In production cars, it doesn't really work, but these cars are much, much smaller, right? They don't have fenders on them. As long as you can not hit your competitor, there's no harm in going too wide. You just got to be comfortable with it.
Clearly is. Clapper's not going to let him get through. In fact, he's focused forward once again. Tobias Harnvey just in front of him, being a little bit of a plug in this group, it looks like. He's slow off the corner, and that's going to be an easy overtake from Jason down into turn 6.
It's hard on the brakes, focus on the exit, and up he goes into 16th spot here as Plumley once again kind of down the middle of the road there, trying to just kind of plug up whatever he can. That provides Jan just a nice little slipstream, but actually that white number 16 kind of lifts off the brakes as Kevin Verbruggen finally making a late lunge down into turn number 1. The number 7 secures the position. A little bit of a look of the over-under from Deturk, but he knows there is nowhere to go.
Yeah, Mikey didn't fight that too hard, so back into 7th he goes. But he's going to stick with him, at least for the time being. Behind them, they've got John Olson trying to play catch-up, so keep an eye out for him, along with Ryan Walker back there, too. Glad to see Ryan hopping back in these cars. He was running in with a nice top 10.
Checking in on Grissinger. That's the car with that lime green helmet that just jumped up over the curb here. He's chasing Tobias Harnvey, that burgundy-colored car, directly in front of him, and it's Heitor Sintez Galindo directly behind. I was actually expecting maybe a little bit more out of Heitor. He's always so fast in those prototypes and IMSA vintages. Jason Clapper is once again sizing up his next pass.
Heitor's strength is, woof, wow. I tell you what, Jason's really slicing through there. We shouldn't be surprised because, like you said, he's very practiced in his overtakes coming from the back of the field almost every time. He's doing an awesome job. But yeah, Heitor, one of his strengths that we often see is just his consistency in those cars. He is fast, but he's kind of a Jorge Nieva type where he tends to let the race come to him.
He's sitting in 18th place right now, and he does have quite a few positions directly on his plate in front of him. Oh, he looks like he just kind of clipped the wall a touch in the hairpin there. That can happen if you kind of tighten that radius a little bit too much. You can actually have that right rear wheel clip that wall.
Looks like Togo Hisada is out of this race with a wreck, and then almost looks like connection issues that may have collected Jan Steffen as well. So strange goings on there in the middle of the pack. I'm not sure, it may have actually been Ryan Walker. I need to correct myself on that. So we'll see if we can find some information on that a little bit later, but that has definitely changed up the front of the field once again. Looks like we might have a replay of it. So this is coming up to turn 5, which is re-entering onto Shoreline the other way. Oh, way too much curb.
Well, and what we didn't really see there, I've looked at it a couple times. As soon as he hit that curb, Joe, the steering yanked full hard left at lock, which usually is kind of that sign of there is a hardware issue. What it was, we don't know, but there was definitely a steering wheel input that yanked him hard left into the wall.
That was a good guess because I just looked down at the chat in the sim. It says, sorry, my steering USB disconnected. And that would definitely do something like that. Down through the hairpin, Heitor Sintez Galindo, things getting close behind. Yeah, watch the steering wheel. Yep, there it is. Just instant full lock, and that is absolutely a sign that something has gone completely awry hardware-wise. Ryan Walker now out of this race. Not sure what happened, but we're going to continue to watch this fight with Heitor Sintez Galindo. Gets by Jan Steffen. That moves him now up to 15th. He has a gain of 4 so far.
See if he can kind of keep on the charge. I just mentioned that he was a few positions back, but between Togo and Ryan Walker and Heitor taking advantage of those battles that were directly in front of him, kind of playing to your point, Joe, that he was just able to stay consistent and take what was available.
As we tend to expect, attrition has been gobbling up vehicles at this track. It's hard to tell exactly how many are gone, but we're down to 22 that haven't been into pit lane. That's about the easiest thing to tell you on this. A couple have returned to the circuit to try and collect whatever points they can, and probably some safety rating as well, to just get to the end of this one and see the checkered flag. But they're not going to get very many out of it. Heitor Sintez Galindo sees Michael Grissinger. See what happens between these two, especially if Grissinger catches up to Jason Clapper once again, who's still the next car ahead of him. And now checking out Matthew Maudsley. This is a nice fight for 17th. Tobias Harnvey, who has been on the back foot, is once again going to defend down into turn 1, this time successfully.
They're actually kind of running up on that white number 24. It's Jan Steffen right behind it. And that yellow and blue car, I believe that's Laust Olsen. He's not for position. He's actually a couple laps down. So he's just going to be kind of hanging out, probably not interfering with this battle at all. Uh-oh, There's a little bit wide from Harnby there in the 31. That's going to allow Matthew Maudsley to slip by nice and easy. Remember, we saw Togo Asada have a little bit of issues down there in what is turn number 5. Matthew Maudsley, kind of a similar deal, up over the curbs or maybe a little bit wide, just kind of opened the door.
So Maudsley now to P17 with that move. All right. Mikey's got another one. He's caught, or no, excuse me, Verbruggen got back by. So now we're going to see them battle once again as they come through the fountain section. Things will get a little bit quicker here out of turn 5 onto Shoreline Drive. And sometimes you see passes into Tecate turn, but you got to be really on top of it.
Remember, Kevin made that move going down into turn number 1 just really late on the brakes, call it a handful of laps ago or so. And I was maybe wondering if he was going to be able to kind of set the pace, that he was, in fact, faster than old Mikey out there. But it seems like either one, whichever's in front, is kind of being hunted or maybe annoyed by what's ever in the mirrors. And they are actually very, very similar pace after all.
Yeah, it's given us some good fun here in this race as we come up to the hairpin once again, trying to get that foot down as quickly as you can, right up against the wall for the Turk. He keeps off of it, but it also doesn't get him enough down this Shoreline Drive. In most modern cars, this one's pretty simple here through that long sweeper, but in these cars, it can be extremely scary, and he's not going to be able to gain enough in that slipstream down the main straight.
Let's see if we're riding on board here. If maybe we can pick out one or two little areas that maybe Verbruggen's a little bit faster, or maybe that De Turk is capitalizing on curbs. It seems like through the first sector, they're pretty similar. A little bit of a loose moment there for De Turk coming off of turn number 5. This is going into turn number 6, the Tecate turn, and it seems like they're both pretty well mannered. If anything, that was a little bit wide out of Kevin Verbruggen there on the exit. So maybe it's the first half advantage Kevin and the second half advantage De Turk as we head down the back straightaway.
Yeah, just a little too far back with about half a second difference between them coming into Firestone turn. And we took off yet another lap. And yet all that's happened, we're still only on lap 15. So maybe about 2/3 through this race at this stage, but it has packed in a lot in what laps that we have had, as Michael Grissinger back here now fighting with 8-Tour Sintez Galindo. This is for P14. 8-Tour bringing it on to the back straightaway on Seaside Way and actually pulling away. Great exit from that 11.
Was able to really roll on the throttle there out of turn number 8, and like you said, just kind of pull away from Michael Grissinger here in this, call it blue and red, number 28. We check back in on our lead up front. I've been trying to pay attention to this here just a touch. Jorge Nieva, once he got around Togo Hisada, once he got kind of into clean air, he has been closing that gap here on Mick Claridge. Our leader has really set sail up front, so the battle is on for second.
Also, we've gotten confirmation from Ryan Walker since he has retired that he did get too much damage from contact with Togo Hisada, but said the two have worked that one out, so no hard feelings between them. It happens sometimes. Here is Walker running into him, with that car. I'm sure with the USB, getting unplugged, there was probably a frantic moment before hitting escape where he's trying to frantically get that plugged back in.
And, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but turn 5 is actually pretty blind when you go into it. So I'm not surprised that Ryan was kind of unaware that Togo was sitting at exit.
Yeah, and that would have been pretty shortly in front of him, so he wouldn't have seen the yellow flag for all that long before coming into there. But it is what it is as we come back to Nieva. Now, I was checking on the points. Wow, did you see him just touch the wall there coming out of 5? He's using every inch of track, but it would be a 9-point swing between Valenteus and Nieva. So that's not enough for Valenteus to move ahead of Nieva, and that doesn't even take into account potential drops, which I don't think Nieva would use in this situation. But it's going to get him closer, but it's not going to make Audrius as big of a threat, but more of just kind of an irritation heading into the last round as he's still in the hunt for this one. Now, as far as those drop points go, here's the good news. Nieva, coming into this week, had 70 points or roughly around there in drop points. That's how well he's been doing this season. So he has a lot sitting behind, even if he does have a bad race.
Checking in on our leader here. Just set another purple fastest lap of the race, currently at a 1:18.204. I'm going to play up a little bit of a storyline here with 9 laps to go. I do wonder if Nieva can close that gap and maybe take away that second position from Mick Claridge. It's been hovering right there at 0.8, 0.9. It's right there, right at about 1 second currently. To your point about those championship points, another position could definitely play huge, but I think just in terms of pride and who's fastest, I think that would be a big foot down if Nieva was able to kind of pass Mick Claridge.
Here's the other crazy thing with those 70 drop points. That's between 2 races, obviously, since they have multiple drops. But since it looks like he should have a decent result today, unless he somehow winds up lower than 26, which I think where he finished last time at Interlagos. If he finishes pretty much as he is right now, at Hockenheim next week, he'll have a drop of 43 points in his pocket. So still in a very, very good position to finally maybe get that title he's been going for literally years now.
Gotta say, Mike DeTurk here had some problems this previous lap. He has dropped off of the pace, and this is exactly why. Going into turn number 1, I believe this is David Muse, the lap car, the 32. Maybe a little bit aggressive from DeTurk. It's tough to deal with lap traffic, and when I really go back and look at that, you know, he can come in and argue with me. He kind of sent that from a long ways back.
And I have to say that could have been a lot worse. So usually you get contact in turn 1 winding up with somebody chucked into the wall, but they did a good job just both kind of spinning off to the side. Nobody else ran into them, and off they both go. I love that the drivers that we are closer to, you feel a little bit braver about saying some more opinionated conclusions.
Yeah, well, and he's always got a great attitude about it. I know that we can have conversations and that he understands both sides of it, as well as not just being a racer, but being kind of on the commentary side, too, as we check in on Cam Porter. He's had a fantastic day. Up 5 positions. The only worry part that he's actually got, it's not even a worry. He's on the full attack. Directly in front of him is Marco Salgado. He's inside the top 10.
He's got Yuma Yao behind him, who has gained 21. That's a driver that knows how to make some passes, so keep your eyes peeled, Cam. Could have some company behind you. Salgado just in front. Let's see whether or not he can hold him back in these last 7 laps of the race.
There's a good opportunity here. Now, I know that Cam is always one of our consistent runners. He's always in there providing us these great in-car camera feeds as we go through the fountain section. Joe, has he always had the full red Clifford driving suit?
I hadn't heard it described as that, but I'm not sure. We'll have to ask him if he has changed that. The one thing that I find interesting is the Cam has changed angles.
You're right.
Usually we see his license plates and things behind him. So not sure what spurred that, if he changed the location of his rig or what.
I think we got to get like a little title that says Cam's Cam whenever it pops up.
I love that. Did you see the even had the tongue sticking out there for a brief moment? So he's in full focus mode, trying to catch up to Lopez Salgado there just in front of him. But he needs to get a little bit tighter to the gearbox before he gets an opportunity to try and overtake. Speaking of which, is it just me or did Nieva catch up to Claridge?
Yes, he has. They are dealing with a little bit of lap traffic. You see another one directly in front. We'll see if they get out of the way. Yes, that's Tomas Tuba letting both of the cars out of the way. That's Claridge and Nieva scooting by. But you're right. What was 0.8 of a second, 0.9 of a second is now only half a second between Claridge and Nieva, and this will allow that blue number 2 that benefit of the slipstream a little bit more.
And there's definitely motivation for Jorge not to just ride this one home. It's 4 more points if he finishes P2. Jason Clapper, did he just get another one here? That, yes, was Robert Plumley, who's been sporting quite a bit of damage. And Jason now up into 12th.
I think it's either the paint or maybe Jason. Yeah, Jason is missing the bit of the nose as well. So, yeah, up 16 positions, but definitely looks like he's had to trudge through some mud to get there.
Usually a sure sign that he's hit something head on. He's got his dog on the car. I was trying to get some screen time from us as he knows Joey and I are big dog lovers as well. Coming down onto Seaside, way off he sets towards Jana Lehman, who is 8 seconds ahead, so going to be a little difficult to get any more. This might be as high as we see Jason Clapper go.
Check in on this battle here, heading into and through turn number 6. It seems like Mick Claridge has been able to kind of hold the gap steady, and time is running out, right? We've got about 4.5 laps remaining here, 5 to go officially on the board. Nieva's going to have to go up there and really put some pressure on Mick if he's going to try to, I should say, be on second place.
Yeah, this is probably going to feel like a win with Audrius here today. Mick knows that he's just lightning fast, and the gap up to about 12 seconds now. Another victory in his hands. Might just be too little too late for Valenteus to try and steal that title away. But again, we got one more to go. Look at the yaw from Claridge coming along Shoreline Drive. I don't think I've ever really seen a car that loose coming around that corner.
Turn 1 here, I guess it's not turn 1, right? It is the front straightaway.
Yeah.
I would expect that these cars, yeah, you actually have to drive them through there. We talk about a lot of non-corners around different racetracks that are, in fact, corners here in the 49s. I don't expect the front straightaway here to be any different.
Yeah, you can still take it flat out, I can tell you that, but it's scary. It's when you slide across the track, you can't exactly go too wide and be completely comfortable. You got to give each other a little space in those situations. Nieva, he's actually showing himself now. Took a little bit of a peek out of Pine Avenue and onto Seaside Way, but he wasn't quite close enough. And then in the background, we saw that was Miko Leno, how much they'd left him behind. They've gapped him by about 5 seconds.
This next corner, turn 11, the hairpin, that's where I think that Nieva has excelled all day long. Look at him really, really wide. Is able to get so close to that inside concrete wall, and that just provides him the straight line drive down the front straightaway that he needs. And sure enough, it was about 4/10 last lap, down to 1/4 of a second. Mick Claridge with another huge slide on the front straightaway, but I think the pressure, the fight is officially on.
He knows that if he can get Mick to make just the tiniest mistakes out of the hairpin, he'll have a good run, and surely we'll see Nieva try something down to that corner. He, like I said, is a patient driver. He tends to try and not make low-risk moves, but as he once again brushes that same exit of turn 5, I mean, this is the most I think we've seen Nieva hustle in a long time. I'm pretty certain he knows this is the closest he's come to a championship.
I love watching this camera view. Watch his steering angle. Yes, it's loose, right? That's how you need to drive these cars, but look at how much actual counter steer there is. Very, very minimal amounts of counter steer. He's doing 0 counter slides for the most part on entry through the middle, and even once he gets on the throttle, he's modulating that throttle not to have too much counter steer. Why is that important? Well, one, it keeps the tire temperatures down, and the car is still pointing forward. You're driving the car forward. You're no longer sliding it out.
2 laps to go now. He's closer this time, it looks like. He's right there, but it's going to take a real dive, and Mick knows it. He covers him off coming down into the corner just to try and dissuade Jorge Nieva.
Through through the fountain here, and Mick was a little bit wide through the fountain, maybe carried a little bit too much speed going in there and just kind of let the front of the car drift wide. This corner right here was another opportunity for Nieva last lap, but I actually think that Claridge was able to handle turn 5 a little bit better than Nieva that time around.
Mick's been out of the cockpit quite a bit over the last few years. I wonder if we're seeing him not completely comfortable in the car quite yet, because I haven't seen him this nervy, see this sort of mistakes out of him in quite some time. Nieva still hasn't been able to make use of them, but he's getting cracks in those armor.
Let's see if Mick can just hit his marks here through 9, 10, and 11. That's all he needs to do, because coming to the white flag, I don't think that the sprint to the line is capable from Nieva, so just make sure to stand on the gas right here. Nieva literally underneath the exhaust pipes of Claridge as our leaders take the white flag.
Looked like there was just a little bit of wheel spin from the number 2. I don't think he's close enough. Let's see what Mick does coming down into Toyota this time. Doesn't really defend as hard, so he feels a little bit safer through there, and Nieva didn't even try and move down to the inside. Other than that, Tecate turn, Firestone turn, really the only two good places to try and overtake.
I think if you want to throw a crazy knuckleball at Mick, Nieva's been so good in that 9, 10, 11 complex. Maybe if you can just kind of push him off of the racing line or present the car. You see him present the car down in Tecate turn, and McClaridge leaves the door open, but then he shuts it there at apex. Here comes the potential move. Can he slip it down the inside? He's there. He's all the way to apex, and now Claridge put the power down. It's a drag race.
Oh, I don't know how he didn't get a cut course for that one, but that shallow exit has cost him. This might be his last chance. He's going to send it in deep, but he is not there. What's going to happen out of the hairpin between them is up ahead. Adrius Valenteus will take the win and close in on Jorge Nieva. Behind him, the battle for second place. Jorge was there, but Mick Claridge was able to fend him off for the entirety of it, and he'll take second. Nieva gets still a valuable podium.
There might still be one battle on the track here. Cam Porter versus Marco Salgado. They're going down Seaside Way, and Cam is only about 0.3 of a second back. Let's see if he can maybe force a mistake out of Marco, or if Marco's going to be able to hang on to this. Cam rolls a ton of apex speed through turn 9. It's going to wash him out a little bit there in turn number 10. All Marco's got to do is put his foot down, and it will stay the same. Looks like Marco Salgado 8th, Cam Porter 9th.
Big sigh of relief seeing the checkered flag, still a top 10 for Cam Porter, and that is not too shabby. A gain of 5. Behind him, Yuma Yao, definitely the hardest charger, easily up 21 positions. Jason Clapper doesn't get it for once with a gain of 16. That tells you how many Yuma has passed, as 16 past cars will not get you hard charger at a street circuit.
It's pretty wild. I think that if you're going to come and race the 49s and you don't know about this crowd, you're in for a shock, right? I think that it's difficult. People, first of all, they're difficult to drive these cars, as Nieva says, no, it's not. I'm just going to drift around an entire checkered flag lap. And then you get to the competition side. It really is specialists in these cars, and it doesn't matter if it's 15th, 25th, or 1st. You're going to have a fight.
Well, the fight was more for second place as Adrius Valenteus comes home with the victory. Didn't really show him a whole lot, and he wasn't the story, even though he is, as this does close him in on a potential championship. McClaridge finishes second, and Jorge Nieva should remain our points leader after this one, finishing 3rd. Miko Leno will be P4. Kevin Verbruggen in 5th. Great race for him, fighting with Michael de Turk, who came home behind him in 6th. John Olsen 7th, and Marco Salgado fending off Cam Porter for 8th and 9th, respectively. Yuma Yao gets a top 10 today.
Across the page into 11th is Yanni Lehman. Actually, all of these drivers had great days. Yanni went up +7. Jason Clapper, the biggest mover, up 16 and 12th here. Robert Plumley +8 to finish 13th, and Aitor Sintez Galindo +5 to finish in 14th. A great group right there. Michael Grissinger finishing 15th. Jan Steffen 16th. Matthew Maudsley 17th. Thomas Tuba back here with a great day as well, plus 16. Thomas Willershausen plus 16 as well. And then David Muse in 20th.
Then you already get into the cars that were a mix of DNFs and those who just kind of limped home. Tobias Harnvey in 21st, Rodriguez, Olsen, Walker, Jourdain, King, Hisada, all various drivers who had to take repairs and maybe got it back out. Nakamura was 28th, Bruno and Partanen, and then from there on down, pretty much all DNFs: Clapper, Pongrazi, Flanagan, Amir, Graham, and Tixier, who may have just seen his championship hopes go up in smoke with that finish. Looks like good friend Heitor Sintes Galindo actually going to be talking to us. Finishes 14th today. So why don't we have a little bit of a chat with him? Heitor, we're used to seeing you over in the IMSA vintage cars, but jumping over into the Lotus 49, what's your impressions?
Yeah, I'm a bit sad that nobody asked me what wing I had to use with this car, but well, it's what it is. No, seriously, it was a fun race. So today, I just woke up and said, let's do something different today. Let's try the Lotus 49. Let's just say it was a bit, challenging, let's say, because it was like a random race and it's like, a Long Beach of all places. Well, at least it's not the North Life of that. But still, it was a good race. I don't know what happened on the start. I think someone got caught in the fountain section. Yeah, probably that. Well, regardless, nice race, clean somehow. Managed to keep the car in one piece, and yeah, happy with the result, P14.
I was going to say, I mean, considering the steep learning curve of this car plus Long Beach, I'd say you should be proud of a 14th place finish. You know, we were talking about how you and Jorge Nieva seem to have a bit of similarity in that you're both kind of known as consistency drivers. Do you think that helped you here today? Just bring the car home?
Yeah, let's say, yeah, because let's say that recently I've been in the IMSA Vintage quite inconsistent with the results, and I had to also try to train myself in driving a little bit more consistent, making less mistakes, a lot of mistakes, especially in the Nissan. And I was like, hey, so you need to get your act together and say you need to finish the races first, and because it's again, it's how I got good results in the vintage series. So yeah, it's a work of, you know, being consistent. And yeah, this races, especially in complicated places like these with walls and everything, everybody's gonna, well, not everybody, but lots of people gonna wreck. You're gonna pick up some places. So yeah, it's an exercise of consistency. Yeah, as again, it's I've been inconsistent these times, and it's like, hey, try to practice. You know what better place to do that Lotus 49 and be a mistake in your route, and yeah, good result nonetheless.
Yeah, like I said, well done out there, and glad to see you. Will we get to chat with you some more over IMSA Vintage in a moment?
Absolutely, yes. I will join on IMSA Vintage in a couple hours time. So yeah, looking forward to see you.
All right, we'll keep an eye out, and excellent race today, sir.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for the broadcast, and see you guys in a couple hours.
That was 14th place, Heitor Sintes Galindo. And Joey's got his hands full because we've got both second and third place joining us.
Yeah, we're going to make this interview a party style here with both Mick and Jorge joining us. First, Mick, what was the pressure like with that number 2 car hunting you down those final couple laps?
Yeah, I was never in doubt, mate. Never in doubt. And there's no pressure from Jorge. He's just too much of a nice guy. He's a bit slow as well. He doesn't know how to set the car up, and, you know, he has all sorts of trouble.
All right. The one side has told the story. Jorge, your turn.
Just wanted to tee him up there for some proper, you know, post-race arguing.
And
I agree. Sorry, I agree with everything Mick just said. So I'm completely right.
No, can I give you
about to set that up? He's the nicest guy. You think you're going to get a rebuttal out of him?
let me just re-answer that. Yeah, it was such a brilliant fight. I love fighting with Jorge because it's just great. Every time I was looking in the mirror, I don't know if you caught it on the outside from where you were looking, but every time I was watching him in the mirror, his car was crossed up going into some of these corners, especially the last section. He's like opposite lock through all of those corners. So I was just like smiling and grinning all the way through that fight. And then when we went side by side, it was like, okay, it's going to be battle of the second gear ratios and the rear end grip. But yeah, I just had the liner on the outside, so I was able to keep ahead. But brilliant fight, Jorge. Well done, mate.
Thank you. I there was a moment in like 5 or 6 laps till the end when I touched the inside wall of the turn 1, the straight, and I thought, well, it's over. P3, it's all right. But then you made a little mistake, so I thought, well, let's try. I have to at least send it, but it didn't work.
So, Jorge, I got to ask you, the final lap, the move going into what was turn number 8 down there, was that a move that you had thought about for a few laps, or was that just kind of winging it? The opportunity was there.
Nah, I just wanted to try. There was no possibility. I was following Mick, but very, very hard for me. So I saw I was pretty much near, so I tried, but then no, I didn't have it thought. It was just a thing of the moment.
Mick, I know that going into that turn, the previous few laps, he'd kind of shown the nose maybe a little bit. Were you expecting it at that turn, or were you just on constant guard that final lap?
No, it was definitely that turn because I was all week I've been stuck in two minds whether to go round in third gear or second gear, and I just decided on second gear for this race. And it's just so hard to get the power down, and I'm pretty weak on the brakes, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm fine, and then sort of halfway through the race I seem to overheat the fronts on the brakes. So yeah, I was having trouble from then. So I knew it was coming. I knew something was going to happen. Yeah, but I knew Jorge had to think about the championship as well. But then look at Seb. Wow.
It was an interesting day when it comes to the championship for sure. Jorge, you definitely capitalized on it. I just want to say thank you to both of you guys. You always show up. Mick, I know you're in and out, but you're always racing whenever you can. Jorge, you're pretty much in here every single week. You guys really are the class of the field. So thank you guys for coming out and racing with us.
Thank you. I will be missing the last race, so I want to thank my wife because today we started dating 18 years ago, so it's a nice day for us today. So thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'm not going to race the last race either, and I'm going to thank Jorge's wife as well.
Congratulations to the Nievas and the anniversary. That's a huge accomplishment there. But yes, that was Mick Claridge and Jorge Nieva finishing second and third today here at Long Beach, Joe.
Well, okay, so that's going to make it interesting come the final round because, as I said, drop points still there available for Nieva. That'll be strange if he takes the title and he's not even there for it after all this time. We got one more to chat with, and that is Cam Porter, who gets himself top 10 today. But the real question we have, Cam, is did the Cam change angles, or did you move your rig, or what happened?
Yes, my wife and I moved apartments this week in the same complex, but we just moved into a slightly smaller but significantly cheaper apartment. So the rig is the same, it's just in a different location. Just set it up this week, so I haven't got any decoration on the wall here yet. So that will be coming. I'll probably be up by next week. So yeah, watch for that.
Always an important part of the webcam setup is the wall decorations. But talking about the race, a gain of 5 today, it looked like you and Marco Salgado were pretty close there at the end. Did you feel like you had something more for him, or were you just trying to bring it home?
No, I focused on just driving like 95% today. I wasn't pushing too hard, keeping the tires under me, just trying to stay calm, zen, just do my laps. If I had caught Marco, that's great. He drove a solid race. He made a couple of minor mistakes, but not enough for me to capitalize. So shout out to Marco for driving a solid race today.
It was a very solid race for you, getting a top 10 and a pretty large field, 36 cars out there. What were your emotions going into the race when you saw that number?
Oh gosh, I was concerned because, as you know, the fountain here can be notorious for pileups. So I was hoping to just survive. I qualified better than I normally do, so that was increased my chances of surviving the fountain. And I dodged a bullet because Seb and Roberto got together in the fountain and spun like right next to me. So I was really lucky to get through that, I think. But yeah, just focus on keeping the car pointed straight today and off the walls.
And that seemed to do the trick. Well, congratulations on a top 10 and looking forward to seeing it at Hockenheim.
Thanks, guys. Top quality broadcast every week. Thanks again.
Well, thank you. That was Cam Porter finishing P9 today. And we're going to wrap it up with a big thank you to the community as a whole here in Lotus 49s. Also, a thank you to our team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment. Like we said, season finale going to be next week, Saturday, December 7th at 8:30 a.m., wrapping up in Germany. Then be sure to check out our other broadcasts because later today, the IMSA Vintage Series is going to Sebring at noon Eastern. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.